It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Well, a good day to you. I'm Brad Miller. It is County-Wide, and we're happy to welcome into studio a first-time guest with us, Becky Hardy, the Butterfly Lady, as she was introduced to me first. Becky's the president of the Butterfly Enthusiasts of Northern Arizona. Did I get that right so far?
Correct.
Okay. You're going to be Becky from now on.
Sounds good.
Unless you prefer Madam President, and we can do that too.
I do not.
It's fun. We sometimes talk about very serious things on the program, sometimes things that really kind of go out into the community on behalf of nonprofits and whatnot. You're a nonprofit organization, but how can you talk about butterflies without a smile on your face?
Exactly. So
and
true.
So I think we'll do that today. Now, there are some serious issues facing butterfly populations, and I'd like you to share some of that with us, too, as we get moving through the program. But kind of, if you want to start out, I remember as when I went to school many years ago, in wagon wheel times, we had to collect insects and butterflies for school projects and things like that. Where did the bug bite you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a little girl.
Yeah.
I literally would sit out in our lawn. I grew up in California.
Okay.
And so, of course, we had that good old Bermuda lawn, right? And we had some flowers and what have you. And I would sit out there, try and catch the butterflies, look at them, look at their colors, their shapes, their sizes, and everything. And as I got older, it just kept getting more and more involved. Yeah. Hence the reason why this year decided with another butterfly expert, I would call her, we decided that we would co-found Butterfly Enthusiasts of Northern Arizona.
Yeah, well, terrific. Yeah. Now, is this kind of like a scientific organization? Is this just for, like we would consider a group of bird watchers? Is there kind of a vocational element to the work you do? Or
we are, of course, focused solely on butterflies, and it's their conservation and education.
Sure.
So we have different facets. We, of course, want to have a lot of fun, introduce people to some of our smallest wildlife that they may not even know is out there, that they're passing on the trail as they're out there hiking.
Right.
And we also do community science events. Like just last week, we had a good partnership with the U.S. Forest Service for one of our milkweed plantings.
Okay.
Just did that up at Cave Springs Campground. And then we have a huge project that we are working on. And of course, trying to raise funds for, of course, as you just get started, you don't have a lot of seed money to get going.
Right.
But for those of you that don't know, you can actually radio tag a monarch now.
Okay.
There is a radio tag that is 6/100ths of a gram, so less than the weight of a grain of salt, or rice, I should say, not salt, but rice. And it goes on the body of that butterfly. And then there's a receiver. There's 3 different ways to track these butterflies. So let me backtrack before I talk about the receiver. Folks out there who have smartphones, there's something called a Project Monarch app.
Okay.
So they can track the butterflies if they have that app on their phone with location services and Bluetooth turned on. They can track a butterfly if they are radio tagged about a quarter a mile away.
Okay.
Then there is something called a Terra device. It listens. It initially was to listen for birds and ID birds by their song, but now they have also made it that these radio tags can be tracked in your backyard using the Terra device. It's terralistens.com if folks are interested in looking into that. You need a Wi-Fi connection, of course, at your home, but that's the second way. And then the third way is this blue receiver, and this is what we as an organization have installed already. We partnered with the Northern Arizona Audubon Society, and they have their antennas to track birds already in place, so they let us retrofit their antennas to be able to put the blue receivers on there. So now this bumps up the possibility of a butterfly, a monarch, of course, is what we're looking at for their migration. Yeah. 1.24 miles away from that receiver.
Wow. Okay. What is the range of maybe there's male, female, adult, juvenile, and all this, but what's the range of a monarch butterfly?
Monarchs you will find all throughout the United States.
Okay.
And what happens is when they migrate, they, of course, in the spring are migrating north. And so that's their breeding population.
Okay.
So that's when they are solely migrating north, breeding, nectaring. and the female laying eggs.
North
so that's
meaning north meaning where from here?
Forgive me. Yes, thank you. They overwinter either on the coast of California or in the mountains of central Mexico.
Okay.
And so they will start their migration north in the spring, usually around March time. They will then start breeding. Now, that whole time during the winter, they are actually going into diapause. It's their way of hibernating and staying in their life cycle state. And they overwinter as adult butterflies.
It's kind of like a bear hibernating?
Kind of like. They will, on the warmer days, they will come out and get some moisture. You know, there's rivers and what have you, water, not a lot of nectar down there. So they do something called puddling. And they are getting these moist soils, and the minerals within those soils are actually helping them survive. Yes.
Okay, how in the world does something as delicate as a butterfly make a commute like that?
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, I look at Canadian geese who are, got a little bit of meat on their bones, and I think, the elements that they face, especially weather and things like that on a migration, it's incredible. But how can something as kind of delicate seeming as a butterfly make that kind of a maneuver?
It's a very good question, and that's why the radio tagging is so important, because we have traditionally sticker tagged monarchs.
Okay.
So we would have all throughout the United States, you folks are out there, they're putting a sticker on that monarch. So we have point A. That's where the monarch is tagged.
Sure.
Then if that sticker is recovered, either in California, maybe somewhere along the way, or in Mexico, and it's usually because the monarch is possibly dead at this point. Yeah. That's how they're normally collecting them.
Okay.
We know point B, but we don't have those answers. Scientists don't have those answers in between.
Right.
What happens in between? So with all these blue receivers going in place across our state, actually, so we have 2 here in our region. However, there are other stations that are going up as well. They will be able to say, okay, what's the temperature when these monarchs are coming by? How long are they sticking around in this area? So it will be critical for those conservation efforts, right? Of, okay, this is an area we may want more nectar plants. We may want more milkweed planted here. That's the butterfly's host plant. It's the only plant that the female will lay the eggs on and the caterpillar eats. Right. And
we're learning that.
We're learning that. And it's amazing that these butterflies somehow know that they're supposed to go to either California or Mexico, and they've never been there before.
That's the part that freaks me out.
It's just amazing.
You think it's even perhaps, clearly there's a genetic component to it or something, bigger brains than ours working that, but it's amazing. And that to me, any kind of migratory animal, which most are to some degree or another. What is kind of the territory of a butterfly? Like I'll see, you sit out back and you'll see a monarch and it'll seem like he's just kind of floating around your picnic for 2 hours and then he'll go off and do his thing. What do we know a way of that? And it seems like if you've got, like in the way there's a red-tailed hawk in our neighborhood who kind of lives somewhere close because he's always kind of by. So he's somewhere, kind of nearby. But if you were to track, just as a layman, become part of your program you're talking about, can I maybe track monarchs or any butterflies that are kind of in my territory, my neighborhood, say, or are they just more widespread than that?
The one thing that really attracts the butterflies is the plants.
Sure.
And when it comes to butterflies, there's 2 types of plants.
Okay.
You have the nectar plants, and that's the plant that the adult is nectaring on. So that's what they use for their energy. They need that, the sugars and the lipids, the fats, to build up their bodies, right? And then there's the host plants. So if you're really trying to attract those butterflies, that specific ones like monarchs, they are specialists. So you have to plant milkweed.
Right.
And there are some studies out there that have found that if you see a butterfly flying around, right now we have a monarch, say, that flies by the window here, then we can say, well, milkweed is more than likely about 1 mile to 2 miles away.
Okay.
That is what's really going to attract them to an area is their host plant. And depending on the species, those host plants really, really range.
Right.
Right. And sometimes you may even have a host plant in an area, but there's not a population of that particular species in that area. Why? I don't know. But it does happen.
We got to take a break. Let's do that first. I've got a billion questions here in our short show. We're not going to be able to get to them all. Fun discussion, fascinating discussion. Becky Hardy is our guest, and Becky's the president of the Butterfly Enthusiasts of Northern Arizona. We'll continue with Countywide right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Spring is here, and it's the perfect time for a fresh start. Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, is ready to help you simplify and protect what matters most: your home, your car, your life, and your future. Jonna offers competitive pricing with a relationship-first approach that puts you at the center of every decision. Call Jonna Randall Murdoch today at 928-649-8686, located on Villa Drive in Cottonwood. Farm Bureau Financial Services. It's your future. Let's protect it.
Welcome back to the program. I'm Brad Miller, Countywide today, and Becky Hardy is our butterfly lady guest, president of the Butterfly Enthusiasts of Northern Arizona. Predators, what kind of natural you mentioned sometimes habitats will go seemingly unnoticed. What are predators to say? We've kind of started with monarchs, and the butterfly world is billions of probably species wide, so let's kind of stick with them. What kind of natural predators do they face out there?
A lot.
Sure.
And in every single one of their life cycles. Butterflies have 4 life cycles. They have their egg, their caterpillar, their chrysalis, and the adult butterfly. And so they do come up across predators that are other insects, reptiles, birds. There's a lot that they come up against. Right.
Well, and at probably every stage, eggs are going to be fair.
Yes.
Like you think about the mosquito, boy, it'd be nice to not have any, but those mosquito eggs feed an awful lot of different amphibians, especially that we would want to keep.
Correct.
So everybody kind of plays that circle of life role. But I suppose as egg, larva on up the chain, they're going to be delicious to somebody.
They are.
Like everything in nature.
The caterpillars, especially for birds.
Sure.
And that's why I always tell my birder friends, you want to care about butterflies too, because there are species that provide those caterpillars to their hatchlings, and a lot of them. And so it does the cycle of life.
Right.
That's what it comes down to, really, is that cycle of life.
Yeah. No, you touched on this a little bit with the tagging and those kinds of things, but you're going to do kind of an official count or a project like that? Kind of expand on that a little bit.
Correct, yes. Just like bird counts, there are butterfly counts. They've been going on, believe it or not, since 1975.
Okay.
The Xerces Society started them. And then our national organization, who we fall under, the umbrella of North American Butterfly Association, took them over in 1992. And so the NABA has all these different local chapters, like ourselves, and each chapter will commit to at least one count, and many of the chapters are doing more than one count per year.
Right.
And what we're doing is we are going out, and we have to decide it's a specific area within a 15-mile diameter circle. And within that circle, we literally count butterflies. So you're counting the species and then also the individuals. So if we'll stick with the monarchs. If we have monarchs, then we want to know how many monarchs do we have. And this information is so critical because there are a lot of scientists looking, of course, for how are the populations of butterflies doing. They are not doing well. Just in March of 2025, the journal Science did have an article in there that the butterfly populations, not just the monarchs, we have a lot of other butterfly species that are in trouble. 22% of our butterfly populations over the last 20 years have declined.
Do we know why?
3 reasons. Pesticides are a big one.
Oh, sure.
So I always encourage folks, don't use the pesticides in your yards. Do not buy plants that have pesticides on them from nurseries. Always ask your nursery, are you using pesticides? And if so, are they topical or are they systemic?
Okay.
Topical sometimes can be washed off, but even so, I encourage people to kind of quarantine the plant, meaning don't plant it yet and put it out if it's blooming. For those not just the butterflies, but other pollinators,
Sure.
our bees, our moths, wasps, everybody. And then the other thing too is if you do want to put it out in your yard, clip those blooms that first year, just so nobody's nobody's nectaring on them that first year because they are so small. These pesticides, even though they have targeted pesticides or insecticides, fungicides, they do still either make the insects very, very sick or they can die as well.
Right. Wow. So even with such a limited exposure, they can still be kind of a hazard.
They still can be, yeah. And we may not see it. We may think it's beautiful
Right.
watching them nectaring, but I know fellow butterfly enthusiasts who have actually witnessed it.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So we have pesticides, that's one. We have habitat loss, which is of course a big thing. And our weather is changing. Climate change is a big part of that. And to give you an example, here in our region, within the Verde Valley, we call it, we have been keeping track. One of our board members, when she first moved here, started keeping track of the butterfly species that were being observed within the area. Back in 2018, we had 101 species. And now, literally, I just observed a new species about 2.5 or 3 weeks ago. We're up to 124 species for Verde Valley.
Good.
So that is good in the sense because I think there's more of us out there. There weren't many people out there looking for butterflies before.
Okay.
So we have more of us out there.
Right.
But then there is also a bad part because back to the weather changes, we have some butterfly species that can't tolerate real hot temperatures. And so those species that you typically would find, say, only down in southeast Arizona, migrants from Mexico, we actually had a friend of mine and myself were out and she observed this one individual and then sent me a photo later. And I said, my gosh, that's a Mexican fritillary. That is a species that you would never expect to find up in this area. We found it here at Bubbling Ponds.
And that's because he's being driven out of his natural habitat.
Because it's too hot. So they're starting to move north. There are some species that will literally start moving north if it's getting too hot. Of course, as long as their host plants are in the area. And this particular species, their host plants are grown in this area.
Let me take for a moment, I understand it, a simplistic look at that, though. There's going to be some who will say, well, so now he's here. That's good for us, even though they've had to move. What is the downside? I mean, the entire population can't adapt and so on, but...
Right. The downside could be that maybe the plant eventually doesn't survive in this area.
Okay.
That's the other thing that we are seeing is plants growing in areas that they didn't grow before. So the plants are migrating too.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out, really.
I ask that because you hear that so often, I don't want to say denial, but it kind of is a rebuttal anyway of the seriousness of climate change on critters big and small. And that as well, let them just move. Why can't they just move? Who cares? Sometimes people have to move. And I know it isn't that easy. Well, we'd hate to see that, kind of continue. But like you said, more people doing the observing and more observations from those people.
Yes.
Going to help these kinds of things.
Yes. And once you once you do get into butterflies, you start caring about the plants too because of those host plants. You have to.
Sure.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Our guest is Becky Hardy. We need to take a final break. We'll come back. Becky's president, butterfly enthusiast of Northern Arizona.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Spring is here, and it's the perfect time for a fresh start. Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, is ready to help you simplify and protect what matters most: your home, your car, your life, and your future. Jonna offers competitive pricing with a relationship-first approach that puts you at the center of every decision. Call Jonna Randall Murdoch today at 928-649-8686, located on Villa Drive in Cottonwood. Farm Bureau Financial Services. It's your future. Let's protect it.
We welcome you back to the program. Just the final couple of moments here. And before we go, I've got to ask Becky, how many species of butterflies are there on Earth, and can you name them now?
No, I cannot.
Ballpark, though.
And it depends.
Million?
It depends which scientist and which taxonomist you speak with.
Bet.
But it averages in the United States about 700 to 750 species.
Wow.
And here in Arizona, we have 334 of those species.
Wow.
We are only second to Texas.
Isn't that wild?
We have amazing, diverse habitat. And just like birds who love different habitat, and you're going to find different species within different habitat, butterflies are the same way.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, welcome butterflies. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So the count coming up that you talked about, there's a couple of those a year, I think. Is there a website, a phone number? What do you want to leave with our listeners so they might find out more about what you folks do? Absolutely.
I encourage folks to visit our website. It is Butterfly Enthusiasts of NAZ.org.
Okay.
We have upcoming events on there. So we have our counts. We have 2 counts per year. These are our official NAB accounts, one at the end of May and one at the end of August. So our August is going to be coming up here. And then we also have our other events that we offer, like field trips. We have meetings throughout the region as well, where we bring in experts to talk about butterflies, other pollinators as well throughout the year.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well, it's fun talking to you, and we'll have you back, and we'll cover some more things maybe as the calendar brings up different events and counts and different kinds of activities. But good luck. Happy butterflying. What's the word? Is there an expression?
I'm out butterflying.
Is that how we say it? All right.
Yep. If my husband can't find me, he says, "Oh, she's out there butterflying again, chasing butterflies."
Butterfly enthusiast extraordinaire, president of the Butterfly Enthusiasts of Northern Arizona, and add a .org to that to get to the website. Becky Hardy is our guest today. I'm Brad Miller. It's Countywide. We'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.